Retired.
Well, I want to.
We can't, I don't make it anyway. Whenever you want to start, sir.
Oh, how can get us? Well, that's what I think. Very fun. I'm gonna punish you there. I had it first, no. You can be gone. Last week of September, which is supposed to be
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with it. I'm not gonna give no speeches today. I'm gonna, let y'all ask questions, but that's primarily what, town meets for. People ask questions, and I'll try to give you the answer. If I can get the answer, I'll give you the next one, at the next one. These meetings are every Thursday, try to be every Thursday at 2:00. So if anybody got any question about anything that's happened, feel free to ask it. And we'll see if I can give you the answer. If I can't, I'll let you know the next one. So anybody have a question on the left-hand side of me? It should be over here. Yeah.
What are we doing with the RV cup? Please go up to the, podium, Larry.
The mic must be playing over here.
Is everybody going on?
He did it.
My question is again, where's the audit? What's going on?
Okay, the audit's still not here. I will tell you, the reason it's not here so far is because, there's some stuff that has to be released by the lawyer, and it's not being released yet to the, auditor yet. Because there was as we talked about earlier this year, there was I won't say the details, but there was a lawsuit pending, and don't know what, they can't figure out what the damages may be of that. That's the reason they not put it out there on what it can be, like, it can be anywhere from, where you can say 50,000 on up. And that's the reason they not got that on there.
But if it's an open lawsuit and it hasn't been settled, then it should be financially in the report.
Well, that's why they was, last week, we got a paper of that showed that the Messer and them had not released that information, had to release it, and they were gonna give it to them, and then they were gonna put it in, they could estimate it, but they've not got that yet back to us.
So has somebody talked to the auditor and got a rough idea when they're gonna produce something?
Well, it was supposed to be in the last couple of weeks on Friday, but it's not yet. We talked to them about once a week trying to get this here. But we based everything, our figures are on zero. We base it like there's nothing there. like, what I mean is like, starting figure is zero, where there's no carryover or anything like that. So I can't give you that information, like when they'll be here exactly. All I can tell you is we're in contact with them, and they're still not finished yet.
I hope that you are considering a new auditor for next year.
Well, this is a new order because the one that was originally was called Masters and Company, and they were the ones that been doing it for years. And then earlier this year, they sent a notice saying they had a death in the family and would not. We still tried to work with them. They wouldn't have any information, so we had to get another auditor to come in, and not too many auditors were, like free to do our job. So they decided that we had to take what we could get. So they're having to deal with all brand new information from us. It's not like they've had a history of 10 years from us.
I realize we came in late.
Yeah.
But let's get ahead of the game for next year to get on somebody's schedule saying that they will do it for us and present it when it should be presented.
Well, that's what we're trying to do. I won't say we inherited a lot of problems, but there's stuff that needs to be corrected that we're having to deal with, and I'm doing the best I can to deal with those, and we are trying to stay on top of everything. It does take time to do things. It's not like snap your fingers and get it done. It doesn't work that way. But I do take notice of that.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, but
When the new board came in, we were not aware that the audit was in trouble, let's say. And we had checked, I know that Jerry had called about a week after he got into office, and that was when the Masters and Company were still saying, we're working on it. And after, it was probably, Jerry, about three weeks afterwards,
yeah, it was 3 weeks afterwards.
that we called the attorney, and the attorney sent them a letter saying that we're just, we're terminating you, we're not paying you anything because nothing came through. And that's, as Jerry said, that's when we were scrambling, looking for another auditor. I know our general manager was looking, our attorney actually was helping us, our bookkeeper was looking. I know Larry, our treasurer, was looking, and it took us a couple of weeks to find an auditor that, because you're right in the middle of tax season then. We were in April by that time. So we're right in the middle of tax season. And then with, like Jerry said, this is the first time they've done it, and they were looking for information from that other company, and they weren't forthcoming either. So it's been a lot of things that have been delaying this process. But we're hoping within the next month that it will be all taken care of. But Jerry and company has been really working on it.
So is it Master that's not that's withholding the information?
Well, he was withholding some of the information because he hadn't signed a release and stuff to give them that information. Now they got it. And part of that was based on where the court system had held some money from last year on a particular property, I imagine. But what you'll see is when it comes to me, I'm at the office every day, and I try to stay on top of this stuff. And normally I try to remember all this because you got to remember I can't write, as we proved that last week, that I have a hard time writing. So, and somebody said, well, you have a hard time, you don't do emails. Well, I don't do emails because the primary reason I can't get my hand to do certain things like push certain buttons on the computer. Like if I send a text message to somebody, it takes me like 5 times to write. So I rely on, like, if I'm up here, I rely on Vince to say things or write it down, or if I rely on the office, I kind of remember, and I go straight to whoever it can be. Normally, if it's something in the code enforcement, or Peter or Greg, or I go straight to the office because I can't write it down and say remind them later. That doesn't work. So I think Val's got a question. She'll be next on this.
I just wanted to finish your question, Pat. it wasn't only, Mezzer, it was also Masters and Company that were going to charge us $600 to release some information. So that was the other part of it that Larry Hoos had been working with.
My question is, the RV compound. What is going on with the RV compound? How do we, what's going on with it?
Okay,
I need a lot.
let me explain how the RV compound's going. We went and did a walkthrough last month, which was probably a couple of weeks ago, wrote down all the tag numbers and everything that's in there. And then Carol's been entering in computer all this week, trying to find out exactly what inches there are. Because some people in the last year and a half, have brought, well, let's say in the last 6 months or so, have brought trailers in there and never were assigned a spot. Or they sold it, or they bought one and it's still registered to somebody that's outside the park. One particular thing is a pontoon boat. It's in the spot, it's in there, but the trailer is registered to somebody else that lives in Spring Hill. So the question is, we've tried to find out who owns that. We called the sheriff out here, and they said it was from a person in Spring Hill. We sent them a letter to try to get it removed. So what they did was, when the lady had the spot originally, I guess it sold the boat, but she didn't give away, didn't tell nobody, so they put the numbers that on her spot on the trailer. So he's been driving it over here and parking it. So that's what's happening there with that one. We found people are doing that, but as far as the rest of the RV compound goes, we are trying to find out exactly what inches there is, how many of them, and then assign spots. So it's not like we're not doing anything to that. I've been up there just about every single day. I go in it, I look to see if there's anything new in there that somebody's parked without getting permission, because we're trying to get the spot straight. And it's a lot of work, because you have stuff that's got different tags on it that belong to something else that are sitting in there. So, but we are working on it.
So in the meantime, how often do I have to move my motor home out of my driveway? Because they're telling me I gotta move it every 3 days because I can't get a spot in there.
Well, normally, I would say it's supposed to be outside the park, for one thing, but 3 days is about, if they're telling you 3 days, and they're gonna allow you to do that, then it's 3 days. But I'm trying. I've been telling people over the last couple of weeks that we were gonna eventually see what spots are open, and see how many's on the waiting list, because some people are on a waiting list, but they're on a waiting list. There might be 20 trailers that are utility trailers, and there might be an RV that's 40 foot long. Well, if there's a 40-foot spot open, the RV's gonna get it. For the simple fact is, it doesn't waste space. There's lots down there that somebody has say a 30-foot space, and they've got a dolly that they pull behind their car that takes up 5 feet. So we are looking at that, trying to do something with that. And it's not like we had last year or earlier this year where people have been say they'd had a code enforcement violation and they just got it basically ignored. We want to take care of those problems, because trust me, I know what it's like to have a trailer sitting in your yard or need a spot for. And my goal is to get everybody a spot, and that's why it needs to be where Carol does not need to be doing other things besides her job, because she has to enter those in the system. And I don't want her doing research on anything or whatever, because a priority is getting you a spot, getting other people a spot, because that looks like it's got a lot of empty spots down there. But some of those are snowbirds. They only come down from Canada or wherever they live, in the wintertime, so they're not here in the summer. But I'm trying for you.
Okay, I guess that's all I can ask for.
Okay, but to answer your question directly, if there isn't a spot for you down at the RV compound, you've got to park it outside the park. You've got to park it outside the community until there is a space,
Why do I have to do that?
because there aren't enough spaces.
Well,
But but unfortunately, that's what we have to do. You can't keep it parked in your driveway, and you can't be moving every couple of days. Unfortunately, there are other people too that are parking there that have to pay for parking outside of the community until there is a spot.
but according to our HOA, we're entitled to the RV compound.
When there is room. That's, you know what, why don't I take you,
I've been trying to, I've been to the office 3 times, and I've been telling, it's called the hotel phone. And then, but I don't know, I'm trying to find out who's even got control of the RV compound. I don't have a clue who it is.
but until you get a spot, you really have to park it outside of the community. Because there's only 20 spots altogether, there's 2,500 homes. You know? I didn't say that, but.
Go ahead, Val, ask a question.
Okay. I was curious, what kind of criteria are you using for bad debt? I know that was like last week's stumbling block of.
What kind of criteria I'm using for bad debt? I'm not using the criteria for bad debt. I have empty space on my sheet right here that talks about bad debt. And that bad debt figure is 0 according to this sheet for last year. And it should be like, it could be anywhere from 15,000 to 40,000, because the average per year for the last 10 years is 40,000. So I don't make the criteria for that. I just go by the figures that the auditor puts in here, and until the auditor puts in the figures, it's showing 0.
Okay.
When
And
the auditor puts the figures in, it will show something like 15, or it can show anywhere from 15 to 40,000, like I said. So the number overage last year was not 80-some thousand. Because of that figure, you're gonna have to add that figure in, that's gonna make that figure go down. And if you put what was paid to the reserves last September, that figure would be even 40,000 less than that figure. So it's probably gonna be closer to, say, if it's over it all, it's gonna be 15, 20,000 at the most. And plus I can show that $15,000 to $20,000 was previously spent on other things before I took office and before you took office. I will explain more to you, and I can show you on my paperwork the difference after this meeting. That's not a question for right here.
Okay, because my understanding of bad debt, it's not something that comes out of our checkbook. It's something that we decide, or the auditor decides, that it's not collectable, and at that point, we write it off.
That's right.
It's
That's where that
already
figure comes.
in.
So it goes into that figure that's $405,000 over the last 10 years. So it's still bad debt. It's still, we don't get the money for that.
But
So it doesn't matter how he comes up with it. That's the figure he got. It's not my criteria. I didn't set the figures. That piece of paper set the figures that they pricing on. So that's what I'll say to that.
Okay, but right now, when something isn't collected, like say right now we have, if you look at the cash report, we have $17,000 that we've banked for VRC fines, even though that number on the accrual report is much higher. So the bad debt amount, what I'm telling you, Jerry, is already on the balance sheet under accounts receivable. So it's already, it'll only get moved from accounts receivable to bad debt once the auditor decides that 40,000 is not going to be collectible. So I don't,
That's right.
I don't,
That's right.
I don't
It
think
will
it's
go
going
on.
to reduce that.
No, I didn't say it was gonna reduce it. I'm gonna say it's gonna.
Reduce
it'll
the
be-
income. It shouldn't.
Well, when
'Cause
you look at every other line on this ticket, on this sheet, this goes back 10 years. and where the bad debt is, it does reduce it. It does say that it adds to, well, don't reduce it, it adds to that number.
Again, I think it's already accounted for in accounts receivable.
No, it don't. I'm
Okay,
not
well,
gonna argue with you
well,
right here. I can show you zero, or it shows zero on this line for bad debt, when every other year shows
$9,550.
that's
What
not
the
true.
basis was supposed to
That's
be.
not true. That's not what the bad debt is.
Well, not at the end of the audit.
Let's go with your bad debt thing right here.
It's okay, Jerry, we don't have to bore the people with bad debt. I'll come to the office, not a big deal.
All right.
Computer expense. So coming into your administration, there was 5,000 spent. But even though the budget's only 1,000 this year, we've spent $8,459. Is any of that, do you know, because it was a lot in July, were those the new computers?
The new computers just were paid for last week, for that
Oh.
matter. And as far as what was done, as far as the computers go, the first this year, that was primarily because a maintenance agreement between the old administration and the IT people, that was $300 to $400 a month just to be their silver plan. I seen it yesterday, and then the rest of it is for, they charge so much to work on per station and all that stuff. That is where that comes from, and that $1,000 figure it was false to start with, because when the budget was put together last year, somebody put $1,000 on there for that year, even though that little deal with IT people has already been signed, and that thing was started out at $300. Well, $300 times 12 was $3,600. It was already going to be over. So,
But
As
when
far
we
as
got
arguing
that
about-
budget, the original budget, the general manager in June usually gives the starting budget, which takes into account all those preliminary or reoccurring charges. So it's not the finance committee, I don't
okay,
think.
I'm gonna show you one thing, and I'm not gonna argue with it no more. This right here is the original budget. If you'll notice, the first page of this shows a $44,000 proposed additional income. This is in the October issue of the News and Views. That is the original one that was done by the Finance Committee. This one we voted on November. Is right here, and this one shows a proposed project budget carryover funds of $24,000. How can they come up with a $24,000 figure when there is no bad debt, as you call it? And also, we want to go that route. I will go that route with them. This here is a signed letter dated October 14th, 2020. It says, "Dear Brookridge managers, this is an updated ballot package. There were some errors in numbers in the previous mailing. If you have previously voted, the ballot will be kept on permanent record, but not counted. Please return this new colorful ballot to the administrative office. Mark X for, mark X against, and place the ballots in the envelope. Only pick one, or else the ballot will be considered void. Return the ballot envelope in the outer envelope by mail or hand delivery. If you have more than one vote, return the identification with outer envelopes. The outer envelope is only used to validate voting rights and avoid duplication of the receipt of votes from the same owner." This was signed by Mark killer. So they knew there was errors by the first ballot on October the 14th. So that means somebody looked at that ballot and it got changed. They knew it was. So my question is, if they looked at those ballots and knew there was errors on it, why didn't they fix the other errors on there? Like, a great example is screening fees. It shows a negative $7,209. But under proposed budget, it shows zero for 2020, and it also shows projected budget of zero for 2020, and then proposed budget for 2021, it shows zero. So the thing I'm getting at is if they admit there was mistakes on the first ballot, then there had to be mistakes on the second ballot that got sent out to the residents.
Okay.
So
So
if they-
maybe
why didn't they
rather than
correct it?
rehashing it out at a town hall meeting, you could invite the past finance committee and the past treasurer Dennis, who is the chairperson, and ask him about those numbers on his.
And my question is, why would I do that? Why would I change the finance committee when they presented the budget for 44,000, but yet it got changed from the time in October it was realized that there was mistakes on the budget. So the budget we got voted on was the one for 24,000 carrier. So somebody messed with the budget between sometime in October and realized there was a mistake there. I guess to realize that there was not going to be an additional income of 44,000, which if you divide that by the number of RV spots, that would be $176 a spot. So that it makes it look like the plan was originally to charge for the RV compound, which I said we would not do. I would not do. I don't want to see it charged for a small amount of people paying for a large amount of people. That doesn't work. You shouldn't be the other way around either, because as the gentleman said earlier, he thought it was an amenity and everything else, and he said it was that, and we've argued over that and argued over that, and it's just settled. So my question when it does with this budget, if you want to talk to me in private about this budget and what happened with that other budget, you're welcome. But
Okay, because I'd like to hear your solution
Well-
rather than just,
Well, our
bringing
solution
up-
was, when we knew this budget had Friday night bingo in it, which it was counting Friday night bingo, $27,000. Well, we knew that was not there because of COVID. We also knew the miscellaneous income, what was that for? We also knew that the minimum wage is going up. We knew that was not in here, it was not accounted for. So what was the idea? What we was gonna do was try to bring people in from the outside to do things like music in the park, things like this, because we got the parking out here and everything else. But the people that were responsible for that decided they wanted to quit because they didn't get their way. So, reason I can't do everything. I do what I can do, but try to get more volunteers to do stuff. Sometimes
there's
it don't work
700
out
people
right.
out there that would love to help you. But if I got two more quick questions, so I'll get out of the way then. January to March, 5,000 was spent for legal. In the month of July, $3,052 was spent for litigation and admin costs for legal. According to the bylaw, the director secretary maintains the files for board legal matters, and I'm not aware of any matters. What's going on? Because one of your things that you ran for was to not have legal expenses, and 3,000 is a big number to me.
Okay, when it comes to that litigation, there is the same lawsuits that were pending back in last year that are carried over this year, and the one lawyer is wanting to update, and he contacts Measure, and Measure contacts us when it be set up. So we have to do a phone call interview. I will say that some of those things were, like, for example, we went over that yesterday. You have the lawsuit from last November is still there. That's being talked about, and Chris Parkinson is the insurance attorney. He wants to have a conference call regarding that one. There's also a couple of bankruptcies that also we contact the lawyer because we gotta know how to handle that particular thing. The other thing is where the other litigation is like, well, I can't say exactly the circumstances, but there's one where I will say that somebody fell in their house and they're wanting to sue Brookridge, even though it was not our doing. They bought the property or it's set up that way. Okay, so that is what it's for. There's no correspondence with nobody, with no attorney, except for maybe, I'll say probably, since we've been in office, there might be 4 things, and one of them was about the lawsuit out there on Brookridge Boulevard, and the other one was about a bankruptcy, and that was primarily what they's about. As far as personal goes, I don't know of any, as far as personal goes, between board members and attorneys. Because the one that keeps coming up is the one I had with a female attorney back in January and February at a town hall meeting, and now I've been accused of, say, using GoFundMe money to pay for it, or using Brookridge money, and that's crazy, because that was already announced back in January and February that I've been talking to an attorney from Orlando. Her name is Barbara. So that's where we go with that. Go ahead.
Okay, you had talked about budget carryover, and I just wanted to let you know that Florida statutes does state the budget must reflect the estimated revenues and expenses for that year. Okay, we know that. And the estimated surplus or deficit as of the end of the current year. So the budget must state that, so yes, we must get that audit. I just wanted to help you out by letting you know Florida statute. Thank you for your time.
Okay. I saw some hands over here on the left too. Anybody else got a question?
Oh, we got it all.
Okay. Anybody on the right got a question? Over here, that'd be this side over here. Back in the back, please come up to the podium, please.
Paul Harrison, Unit 4. Just like to have bring up 2 topics to see if you can answer them, Jerry. The first one is,
Paul, real close, we can't hear you, real close.
okay, the first one is, I got your email about if you are vaccinated, you don't have to wear your mask. If you're not vaccinated, you have to wear it in all the facilities on the property. So you're taking people for their word that they're gonna wear a mask. Well, I've been wearing a mask since January of 2019. Never take it everywhere I go and the wife go, we wear our masks. I'm just getting over COVID-19. I'm not gonna explain all the symptoms I went through. I still haven't regained my sense of smell or taste. We're gonna be starting, I guess, this month, left, right, dime jingles. You're gonna have 60 or 80 people in an enclosed half the room area. Take shoulder to shoulder almost. You're gonna be, your bingo, all your snowbirds are coming back. Friday night bingo, you're gonna be having people coming from the outside. And starting October, you're gonna have 300 to 500 people in this room for the shows with outside people coming in. And you're proposing they don't have to wear masks. You know what you're leaving yourself into? I went on the website for the CDC today. Their recommendation is today that if you have large groups of people in an inside setting, everybody should be wearing masks. That's what the CDC guideline is as of today. What's your answer?
My answer is that we've been looking at that every single day, but that's the reason we have a health committee also that have been in place that helps give advice on that if they think it's that way. The reason we went with the mandate, as you see on the doors, is because that was CDC guidelines at that time. And if they change to where it makes everybody mandatory to wear it, we can, but it says that if you've been vaccinated, that most time it says that you don't have to wear a mask. So we cannot ask people if they've been vaccinated or not.
You don't.
Okay, because of HIPAA laws and everything else. So it's even employees, like somebody asked, the thing come up about employees that work here. Well, we could say we can make them wear a mask all they want to, but somebody will say, well, what about the people that's vaccinated? What are you gonna do with them? And then we gotta come back and say, well, we can't ask if they've been vaccinated, just like the people here wearing a mask right now, I can't ask none of them if they've been vaccinated or not. So it's gonna be that decision to say everybody must wear a mask. I would refer that to myself, the board members, and the health committee will be involved in that decision when that decision comes. And I don't really think, my personal opinion right now is, I don't think we should have Friday night bingo starting on when it's supposed to start because of that very reason. So I do take into account everything that's placed. And we do have, we have some extra members that are on the advisory committee that are nurses, and I'm sure Gil wants to say something. But that's what I'm doing. It's not, I've been vaccinated, and I'm the one that had a stroke and a heart attack.
Vaccinated in February and March, and I still got COVID-19. And we've been wearing our masks all the time, no matter where we go. But now you're talking about snowbirds coming from all over the country.
Right.
300 or 500 people. How are you gonna protect them?
Yeah, go ahead.
When the CDC says in large groups indoors, masks should be worn.
I know that Jerry and Carol, our GM, check every day with a pharmacist to see what the CDC I think once a week they check to see what the CDC guidelines are. I've been vaccinated. I got vaccinated in February, but I still wear my mask because I have health risks. But we check them every week. As far as the bingo goes, I've spoken to the bingo committee quite a bit. And they would like to start October. But if the CDC, if the COVID doesn't go down, they will not. So that's why we're not even planning on any income from bingo Friday nights. As far as the shows, we don't have the shows, their potential. But if the CDC has, if they say we can have gatherings, if it's social distance and everybody wears a mask, then we will make sure that we abide by that. But that is something that we can't say right now that we're gonna have all of these things going on. We are not. We go week to week, Paul. So we are, and like Jerry said, we have 2 more people that are going on to the health committee, and they check with a pharmacist every week. So this is really not something we're just gonna say, forget it.
No, it's running rampant here in Florida.
Oh, yes, and we have quite a few people in here that have had it, and I know one lady personally that has died from it. So, we know people just have to remember that this is real. This is real. COVID is real, and it's the variant that's taking lives again. So that is something that's an ongoing thing, and we're just because it's because we say we're going to do it, we're really checking it. And I know the bingo people will not start if there's any risk whatsoever.
My only question to the follow-up that you gave, if the CDC recommends that when you have large gatherings of people indoors, they're not demanding, they request that everybody wear a mask.
Then that will be.
Then we'll change that to make sure that we try to keep everybody safe. We mandate everybody wearing a mask when they come to the show. I mean, yes.
My second question is the treasurer's report. It stinks. I got the treasurer's report from last year and following it monthly. And you can't make heads or tails of it. You used to show an opening balance from the previous month, which is your closing balance, should be your opening balance on the next month. You used to show that. You don't even show that anymore. I went on every month, took the supposedly closing balance, added the income for the month. In fact, you don't even show liens anymore on the operating fund income. You stop showing that. You don't even show how many liens are out there. But I took the ending balance, added the income for the month, came up with the total income, then I subtracted the expenses. What's the $47,200 every month going from the operating fund? That has to be subtracted from as an expense that goes into the reserve account every month. And your ending balance every month does not come out anywhere near that. And on the reserve fund, you show an ending balance. You don't show the $44,722, $20 every month coming from the operating going into the reserve fund. You don't show the interest on the reserve that we gain on the reserve fund. And if you do adding and subtractions, it doesn't come out. Your ending balance is nowhere near what you're showing. So something's got to be done to correct this here treasury report because it stinks.
And what month was that?
Every month. I went over all of them from December of last year. I don't have this month yet. I got as far as June 12th.
Paul, you come back in home.
I got as far as June 2021, but I started in December 31st, 2020. Your ending balance?
Paul, didn't you not sit with Carol and put that program together last year?
Yes. Last year, Carol, when she became the general manager, asked me if I could put together a simplified treasurer's report. And I did hand her one, showing and a lot of the things are on there, but other things, like I explained, I'm not going to go into detail again, is not even on the report. And your closing balances don't even add up.
Okay.
I'm
I will
sorry.
take, we have been looking at that, the way that treasury report looks every month since we've been there, and it's got to be tweaked, and it's got to be, something's got to be done to it. We know that those figures are.
I know the treasurer's not here today,
Yeah.
but I'm just bringing up that this report is.
And they get most of those figures straight off quick, and so, something about those figures are like, you can say like, let's see if I got one here. Okay, I don't have a new one. This is the October book of last year. I may have it. Wait a minute.
All I'm saying is this treasurer's report requires a good, hard looking at, because none of it makes sense as far as no opening balance, your closing balance is nowhere near what you're showing on here when you add up the income, expenses. You don't even show, like I said, you don't even show the interest that we're gaining on $2 million every month.
Okay, I will get them to look at that, because we've been looking at that thing, trying to tweak it, because I know what it does. Right now, it takes all the outgoing expenses, and it minuses off what is thrown in. Like, for example, I'll use mowing, for example. Say, if it's got not facilities, but maintenance. Say, under maintenance department, if he mows X number of yards per month, or charges somebody for a force mow, that comes off the figure for expenses. So those numbers are not going to, you're not going to know that exact number, because that number is going to be smaller. So when you minus that number, you're not going to get that number on the right column. I do know that. Also, if they have a set number of fines, or say somebody comes in there and makes a bunch of copies, they will not have that number right, because they will minus off what the expense was. Like, if I bought 50 copies and I paid $50, then they would minus that off. So you would it shows that figure after I paid the $50. It does not show it beforehand.
Right, it would be.
And that's the way
carried
it's
over
been,
to the
that's the
next
way
month.
it's been last year on if you go back and look through the news and views, you will see it down through the years. It's always showed the expenses have been shown minus what income's taken in. And that's what we found out. That's what we said, that because we said all along that how can your expenses be smaller than what your payroll is? And that was how we figured it out, that those figures are not accurate, or they misleading to the residents, because if you add 1 month, for example, that figure was, I think it was $59,000. Well, the payroll for that month was $60,000 total. So how could your expenses for the month be only $59,000 when your payroll was $60,000? So we know there's issues with that thing, that piece of paper. So I'd like for it to be broken down to where you got it, say, mowing expenses, or you got facilities expenses for the month, each department. And then you got what income goes in another line. For, like, say, Vince, for example, his expenses would be his payroll at the top, then his utilities, and then, like, whatever other expense he got. And then another column for that would be, say, if he rents a room, rents the hall, and things like that, go in another column. That's income that came in for here.
Full passes, vending
Yeah,
machine.
and that's what's it's gotta be straightened out, and it's not like it's not being worked on. It's just, I'm not gonna make excuses. I try to do what I can with that. So I talk to them, and I'll try to get them to put another form out that's a better format than what they got.
I'm just saying, when you end a month, that's your closing balance for the month. When you start your new month out, common sense, whatever it shows, that closing balance now becomes your opening balance for the next month. Well, it doesn't even show that in these reports.
I
Thank you for your
will
time.
look at that. I will look at that, because I'm wanting to get it right to where it's simple for everybody to read it and they can understand it. All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, people. How are you today? You're looking pretty good. Great, how are you? Second time today, right? Thank you. Jerry, I know we're buying a new vehicle, and being on the board, I don't even know the fundamentals of it. I know it's a Toyota pickup truck extended cab. I don't know the engine, transmission, or what rear end it has, meaning the ratio for rear end. Could be a 308, 272, 342. The lower the gear, the better gas mileage. Do you know which one we have coming?
I do not, without looking at the spec sheet. I cannot answer that question until I see the spec sheet on that.
And I'd like to find out, I know it's on Toyota. Are we getting any of the holdback money back on the bid and any of the advertising money?
Okay, I'll look at that sheet.
I want to find out about that. I'll tell the people what it is. When you buy a vehicle today, you have a list price, nod your head, you know that. Invoice price, some people pay 100 over. The dealer gets back their money for the advertising on TV, up to $500, and they get 3% of the list price back at holdback. We, as a board member and bidding on a vehicle, we want to get that money. That's our job. Save money for the people. I want to find out about that. It's very important.
Well, we can find out about that, but also you gotta remember that Toyota from that dealership, we're getting a lifetime warranty on that, so I'm well aware of that too.
Lifetime warranty, that mean brakes? Lifetime
It's
warranty?
it is mechanical. It is a mechanical warranty,
That's
the
lifetime.
transmission and everything having to do with the motor, so
Okay.
I'm gonna get more details on
So
that.
just the motor, transmission, and rear end.
I'm gonna
motor
get more
transmission.
details on that, Rich, that if it's electrical or, mechanical, we're gonna find out exactly what it is detail wise. And my thing is, like you showed me that piece of paper, that of where you had the whole back and all this stuff, that might have added up to, what do you think? It added up to close to $1,000?
Depends on the price of the vehicle. $30,000 vehicle is gonna give you hold back.
Okay, if that added up to $1,000, is it, I'm asking you, would you rather us save the $1,000, or save thousands of dollars getting a lifetime warranty? What would you rather have?
I'd rather have the owner of the company sign that piece of
No,
paper.
I'm asking you a question,
Well,
because you asked me one.
I would take the warranty.
You
if
take
it
the
is.
lifetime warranty, that's
But I want
correct.
it written down and signed by the owner of the company, not a salesman or a manager who can leave tomorrow.
Okay.
I want the owner.
Okay, I will
want
see
the
what's
owner.
going on with that.
Next question. I put in for a agenda about the capital contribution, $100. Doesn't seem like a lot of money. You don't pay for that out of your pocket. Anybody buying a house here pays $100, just like they do for the closing to the people who close it.
Yeah, also know about that too, and y'all passed that in December to take it, and then when we got in office, we voted that down to rescind that because it was not done right back in December. So, that, as far as it getting on the agenda, or like in the next meeting, the only thing that's gonna be on the agenda next Tuesday is the budget. It's the only thing that's gonna be on there, and it's not going to make the ballot, because I do not want the three amendments that will be on the ballot to be buried. Because history says, with any kind of vote, if you like the first thing and you vote yes for the First Amendment, those people vote yes for all of it. So I don't want
That's
to
their
bury certain
decision,
things.
not yours. That's their decision.
They don't read, most people do not read every ballot, everything on our set.
Everybody's educated, they can read. Step number 2, on the average of 200 sales a year here, average, 100 hours, that's 20,000 a year, times 5 years, $100,000 of money that we don't have to worry about. $100,000.
Where do you get that figure from?
It's average, it's average.
If each person paid $100,000, $100 per house, and there's only,
Like I said, 200 sales a year, average. I'm just averaging it. Let's go to 100. That's $50,000.
Has anybody spoke to the CPA to find out if a 501c can do that? Was it brought before the membership?
I'm just trying to put it on the agenda.
Want to speculate?
Put it on the agenda.
Go toe to toe with it.
Put it on the agenda. Let's see what happens. We have to have a beginning somewhere. Just a beginning. Then we'll look into it. It's got to be on the agenda to look into, right? Yeah, right? Thank you. Well, let's start it then. Good idea. You want to be head of the handout committee?
okay, let's see, let's stop this right now. Let's say, okay, $100 times 200 homes. And what was that figure you said it would be?
20 grand a year?
Yeah, it comes out 20,000 right there.
That's where the kid can go to high school, grammar school, 100 times 20.
Got any other questions or concerns? Because these meetings are like for y'all's information
I agree, it's for us.
and things for like that. So,
I want to say, I don't want to use the mic because I risk, but I'm wearing masks and I was vaccinated, but I just want to say I think you're doing a great job. The news and views is fabulous. I think everybody's probably seen the new one, and I just want to give, kudos for that.
thank you. So to let everybody know, we do try to stay on top of things, and we do listen to the members because, I will say that me personally, like we can say parking out here would be a prime example. Me, it's easier for me to park on the second road, driving an SUV all the time, and it's easy to back out. It was not my idea to add more spaces to the end down there where the tree was to make it handicapped. That came from residents. Also, you'll notice that we're going to resurface the tennis courts out there, and there's going to be new lines and all that. Well, that plays back to the pickleball people and the tennis people club have that. So that's going to take place. These are not that, I can't play tennis in my condition, so it's obviously not something that I would do for myself. That is for primarily what the pickleball people and tennis people want. When it comes to lining the country club road, people complained about that they needed, they could see it because the white line had faded in the middle. We put that yellow line out there like it's supposed to, painted that. That has happened during us. We can go on and on about certain things that we've done as far as the board does. Also, I will put it out there that because certain things happened last year, and even this year, people have been not really left out of the loop, they've been in the loop because I can show you an email right quick to verify that. That when somebody says that they're left out of the loop or all this stuff, okay, it was it was an email that I read last week or a couple weeks ago that stated about the computers. It was done by a previous board member. They stated in that letter in that email that, oh, right here it is. Okay. It says, P.S. Since you keep saying you talked to Mark, I have also sent a copy of the first email and also this one. I just figured it would make it much easier on you. This was dated July 16th, and it come in at 1:51 p.m. So they are included in the loop on certain things. But if you look through the whole entire history of what went down, the botched up ballot, where the investigation regarding the ballot box, which occurred under Mark Keller's administration, not mine. They had the process to take care of it. The responsibility to take care of that was the ballots back in November, and the election in March falls under their control. And you've got to think that the figures were wrong on the budget vote because they admitted it. If anybody thinks that they should not think they're being not included on stuff, it would be me. That would be my responsibility to not let them be, in the loop, because if you make that many mistakes, in most companies, these people will be fired for making mistakes like that. So, that's the way I put that. If they would have been fired for making mistakes like that and costing money by sending out a second ballot. That should have been like proofread before it even went out the first time. But if anybody doesn't have any questions, I will end this, and I appreciate everybody coming out. I tried, if you got any questions that you didn't want to ask, feel free to ask me now. Let's see what kind of question we got online, because I've not really looked at it. It's talking about, let's see, a person wrote, what's going on here? I feel like, talking about me, they feel like I've been ambushed by board members are trying to take over. That was one of the things, comment made by Snowbird. And I'll say one last thing regarding the computers. Somebody said they were rescind their vote for voting for computers. Did they want, or were they against buying new computers? Or were they just, if they want us to go keep using bootleg equipment and programs? The reason why we get out in front of this stuff, or try to our best, is to combat this stuff, because false information is coming out there. And I won't tell you something, some people will say I tell you false information, but everything I tell you, I got paperwork for, and I'll back it up with that. And that's all I have today. I appreciate everybody coming out. Thank you, Vince, for taking care of this. And I thank all the work the committee done that put the new views and news up together, and interviewed like Signal Graphics and Design Graphics, and it really looks good. So thank you for coming.